You're listening to One Family, What's God Doing? Where we explore what God's doing in YWAM locations throughout Virginia. We can't wait for you to find out what God's doing today. Welcome back to What's God Doing? And I'm excited to welcome back Tori. Last week, if you heard, Tori was able to share how she and the outreach team were able to see God work in unexpected ways because they were willing to position themselves wherever He led. And as we closed out, she shared a verse that God had placed on their hearts to share with others, but they came to learn that that verse was also for them. So, Tori, what else has God been doing through the outreach?
Yes. So we went on a very interesting journey where we experienced multiple flight cancellations upon our returning home. This was a huge shock for us, just going like, okay, like it started off like, oh, it's just one, and then it was all of our flights, and it was like, okay, what in the world?
And not just for a day, like this was like over a span of time.
Yes, it was. But it was definitely a journey. I would say like, I would like to just share like how like it was a journey for learning how to surrender.
Yeah.
And I would have to say it was surrendering our control of what we had control over, and whether or not we were going to trust God or keep Him as our strength, keep Him as our refuge or our help in this time. Because I would definitely have to say that like when it happened, it was like we scrambled and we figured out, okay, many hours on the phone and we figured out a way. Yeah. And when we figured out that way, I personally was like, okay, we're good. We're set. We have this way. It's solid. And we left the country. We left the country where we were originally at, and it opened doors of opportunities. I'm sure that you guys heard of Romans 8:28, for God works all things together for the good of those who love God and are according to His purpose. And this is something we hold true, but at the same time, it definitely does disrupt the order of like, okay,
Yeah.
what are we doing? What is God's purpose? Like, why does He want us here?
Yeah.
So like one of the things that like opened up for us was getting to serve in another country. And one of that was through English conversations. It's something that I would highly encourage you guys, because we have that locally in different parts of the States, just so you guys know, of just having English conversations, whether that be with refugees or whether that be with people who are coming over and they just need to learn the language. And you can volunteer through that. I had heard of these things here in the States, but I had only participated maybe once. But doing it in another country was like, wow, okay, we're just having a conversation, and it's not forced. Like, I know that when I first thought of like English conversation, okay, we have to get to the gospel story. It needs to go straight there. We need to tell and outlay everything. But when we got to the center, they gave us some guidelines, and they said, we want this to be authentic and we want this to be relational. And so you're bringing up Jesus naturally. You're like, let the conversation flow. Like if you're just like, some of them are basic level. So if you're just talking about like your day or your favorite color, your animal, it's okay. Like let the conversation go. But you'll notice that there's some people at different levels, and the higher like English they're able to speak, like you'll find like an example was, oh, did you go to university to study? And I was like, yes, I did. I studied business. And they're like, oh, so you work in business? And I was like, not quite.
Not quite.
And they were just like, oh, what happened? And I was just able to share like God's testimony of how like He rearranged my life. And how that was really hard for me to realize, like I wanted to have my way in my life, but God had a completely different path for me. And so it opened a door of conversation of like, okay, who's this like God? Like, what is he doing? And understanding like Jesus is the one that I follow.
Yeah.
Because in these places they did believe in God, but it was like understanding that it's not like it's two different gods. Like we're not it's not the same. So that was one of the cool open doors that God gave to us.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what's powerful about this story? And there are so many stories that have been told, so much that happened in that unexpected bonus week of outreach that demonstrate just God's power and goodness. But what's powerful about your story is that it came at a cost. You know, you all were supposed to arrive back in the States in time to go to the YWAM family gathering in Lynchburg and to have this whole process of debriefing. And you were set back like over a week. And in addition, there was a lot of unknowns, a lot of opportunities for stress, anxiety, and fear. Can we ever leave? Are there ever going to be flights? I mean, you had to leave that country, go to another country in order to go to another country to get home. And on top of that, you know, it's like $10,000 in unexpected expenses. And so the question that it raises is, what cost are we willing to pay to represent God, to be ambassadors of Christ? And you all had already been positioned for that. One, because 2 months before y'all went, you said, whoa, God's inviting us to go to this place that could cost us a lot in many different ways, including our safety. We're willing to go, you know? And so you are already primed for when God threw this curveball to say, we're willing to go. Here we are. But what's interesting is you had already named in this English conversation with someone who was just wanting to learn English. You were able to share that you had already been primed for that well before, because you went to university and studied business, but now you are living a life of ministry that constantly takes unexpected turns, that's constantly costly. You had already been willing to say yes to God there. And that, as a result, positioned you for this outreach, positioned you for all the flights being canceled. And so how would you encourage someone to grow in their ability to count the cost, and when it is too much, to still say, but I'm willing to step forward?
I would encourage, like, the first thing is like you're not alone. When the first flight cancellations happened and I really was trying to take it all on my own, and just figure it out. But then at the same time, I still had a leader who I was texting going like, should I do this? Should I do this? And so I still wasn't alone in that.
Yeah.
But I think when you're counting the cost of going, you definitely need a team around you to help encourage you and to move you forward. And that was one thing, like when Jesus sent the disciples, he sent them out in twos. And so when counting the cost of going, you need community. It's that's where you are able to not only just grow, but you're also able to inspire and encourage others and sharpen one another. Yeah.
And I think what's so hilarious about all this, when we see a problem and we try to fix it, we're doing so not actually knowing where things are heading. So you understandably felt like the thing that needed to happen was for you and your team to get home, and to get home soon, you know, because there aren't any plans for staying longer. And we can exhaust ourselves trying to fix the things that we think need to be fixed. And meanwhile, God's like, oh, no. I've got people in a different country that you weren't planning to go to that I want to show love to through you. And so the thing that needs to happen is not for the flights to miraculously come back online. It's actually for you to go where I'm sending you so I can
Mhm.
accomplish immeasurably more than you were asking for or imagining. And when we realize that, it can help us to be able to count the cost, because we realize that even though these things are costly, in the big scheme of things on an eternal level, they actually aren't as costly as we assume. The value of this person experiencing God when they didn't expect it, they were just looking to experience English, but they were able to authentically, relationally hear about God through you. Seeds were planted, and you may never hear about the fruit of those seeds until you're in eternity. Yeah. But the value of that seed is far greater than being able to get on a flight on time and not have extra expenses. And so, man, I just love how much God's using y'all's story to demonstrate the immeasurably more he can do. You know, as we wrap up, is there a verse that God's been putting on your heart that you feel led to share?
Yeah. It's a verse that I wouldn't say that I've mastered, but it talks about how you're to count it all joy.
Yeah.
And I cannot say that I counted it a joy to endure many trials or those hardships.
Yeah.
But there's something in that where we're called to count it joy when we endure those hardships, because either God is doing something out of it that maybe we can't see, or God is teaching us something that we need to learn and that we need to grow from. And so it's like an opportunity to prepare you for whatever is next that is to come.
Yeah. The tension is hilarious of what we're invited to do and our incapability to do it. You know, Paul says, rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice, but like you said, many of us have experienced travel issues. Few of us to the level that you had to navigate, not just for you, but for a team of people. Those moments, it can feel hard to have joy. But the Apostle Paul also says, not that I've achieved perfection, but I continue to run the race. And you and your team are continuing to run the race even amidst the hardship. And now we're able to celebrate God's goodness because you are home. So thank you for everything you've shared and for your willingness to serve. And, you know, if there's anybody listening that wants to come alongside the DTS with those unexpected expenses, I'll throw a link in the description of how you can give towards that. And thank you to all who have already generously given to help cover that unexpected cost. But thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would actually like to also thank people.
Oh, yes.
It really was a huge deal, like, for us to, like, even find out, like, hey, like, we had been told, like, okay, you, this airline is not allowing you to even go to, like, giving you a way of passage to get to the country that they said, oh yeah, like, we can fly you out from here, and then, like, from that cancel, we can't fly you from here, you have to get to here, and you have to get to here without us.
Good luck.
and yeah, it was like, okay, I'm gonna throw you out there, oh, you could probably drive, you could drive
yeah.
like, and so it was just, like, very discouraging. And, like, what are we supposed to do? So, like, you guys partnering with us, and not just, like, financially giving, but also through prayers, because, like, the stress level that was extremely high for me personally, I can only imagine for the students, and that desire to be home. Don't get me wrong, there were some students that they were like, oh, okay, Lord, send me, here we are. And it was like, okay, God, that's good. But you also have the people who were like, I want to go home. I want to be with my family. I'm tired. I'm weary. And so, like, you guys opening the door of saying, like, I'm going to partner with you and getting you home was, like, super encouraging and super kind. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of, like, all of us as a team of saying, like, I want them home and I want to partner with them in that. So, like, really thank you. Thank you for your kindness, and thank you for your prayers, because spiritually we were also very under attack with different things. So thank you.
And there's so many other people that we could think that we can't even say by name that stepped in with helping with some logistics, helping with not just flights, visa stuff, helping transportation. Like there's so many people, lodging. I mean, all this stuff that there were people that played a role in it. And so, like you said, we are invited as a community to step into these spaces. And there was a community that helped make God known, whether they realized it or not. So
yeah,
thank you to all of you people. Thank you, Tori, to you and the team. And thank all of you for journeying with us as we together as one family explore what it means to know God and make him known. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of One Family, What's God Doing? If you'd like to learn more about what God's doing in Virginia, visit us at ywamva.org and join us next week for more stories of God at work.